Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Doggone Positive Way. I'm Maria Ryan. I'm your host and your dog trainer. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about service dogs, animals, and guide dogs, and the like. So let's get right into it here. Let's just go. All right. So I was listening to a podcast that I like to listen to, Dr. Kirk Honda. He has a channel called Psychology in Seattle, and they just so happen to have done an episode on support animals, emotional support animals, service dogs, emotional support animals, etc. Let's get going. I'm going to just play a little clip. So Dr. Kirk Honda is a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and Bob, the gentleman who's speaking now, is a colleague of his, and he is a counselor.
The reason I think service dogs is, potentially problematic is because they can act as a totem. We can keep them with us as a totem, as if there's some magic power, imbued in this, beautiful little critter that keeps me safe. That is not a fact. And so if I want to get over my anxiety, I really have to live as if, let it come, right? So if it's elevator phobia, then let it come. If it's fear of heights, then let it come. Am I against service dogs? Hell no. No. And actually, if somebody had anxiety and this is what they did to help themselves, like, okay, great. Man, it's your life, right? Or what am I going to stand by and say, well, you're really not optimizing your...
Have you ever been annoyed by a service, a quote unquote service dog, or not service dog, but therapy animal?
Annoyed by the animal?
Like in public?
No.
Okay.
No, I love dogs.
Because there's a lot of people who will get annoyed, they're on an airplane or something, and it blossoms into this point of view where they will look at research to bolster their personal opinion that it's just annoying to encounter these animals.
Oh, I don't feel that way. In fact, I don't.
Okay. So this is a very interesting topic because guess who got annoyed by an animal when I was on a plane? Somebody, not me, somebody got annoyed. I don't know if she was annoyed, but she was like very judgy. I flew with Rufus several times after I developed a PTSD response. I was already diagnosed with PTSD, and I don't know what happened, but something happened where I just had panic attacks on the plane. I was not able to do what I used to do, which was maybe take a Xanax, maybe have rum and Coke, maybe have both and pass out for the flight. I was not able to do that anymore because I have MS and I need to have every little bit of physical strength, and those two things would not jive with that. So I realized that anytime I had some panic going on, Rufus was there to comfort me, not as a comfort animal, but literally would just take that away from me. The sheer terror that comes with a PTSD experience is like no other I've experienced. It's unless you go through it, you don't know what it's like. It is not a rational thing. It is not a rational event. It just, you're just terrified. So anyway, long story short, Rufus really helped me with that. So anyway, this woman came on and she was not a happy camper, but we actually really had a great conversation. And, we just talked about the differences between guide dogs and service dogs and animal or emotional support animals. And as we're doing this, a woman comes on with a small dog who is stressed to the max, crazy, like panting and whining, crying, barking. I felt so bad. We both felt really bad for the pet and for the dog. And clearly there was no pre-med. I don't know what this person was thinking, but it was really upsetting to us because, you don't want to see anybody suffer, especially a dog. Like, they don't know what the hell's going on. We just take them and we go and we get on a plane. So, you don't want to do that. Pre-med your animal if you're going to fly. But in any case, Rufus actually helped me get through that fear. Not only because he was there with me, but Rufus is no longer with us anymore. He's passed on the Rainbow Bridge. But I know that I could get on a plane and be fine. I know that I flew after without him. And I don't know, it was just wild. It was a wild experience. So, yeah, I think that, now emotional service animals are for comfort, but not specific to PTSD. It's very different. PTSD is very different. Anxiety, is different. And I think that, if you have certain anxieties and you have just different stressors, that if you need an emotional support animal, that you do look into that. However, and let's just say you need a service dog, but you're not getting one from an official organization, like say Canine Companions for Independence, or you're visually impaired and but you don't get your dog from Southeast Guide Dog, and you train it yourself, or you hire somebody to train that animal for you, whether it's an ESA, whether it's a guide dog, whether it's a service dog. You need to make sure that these animals are sound behaviorally, so that they're not aggressive, that they're not so anxious that you have to worry about an anxious animal. That's just stupid. It's not productive at all. And I'm focused on dogs. I will tell you that the ADA does recognize miniature horses as a service animal too, because of their stature. But now if you have an emotional support animal, in order to like really make it official, you need to have documentation from your doctor or psychiatrist, psychologist, medical doctor. Let me just go here and share this other screen with you guys, because I found this. I like all this information. It's really important. Let's get this up here. Okay. So, okay. Now, this is ESA letter. Obtain your letter now from a licensed therapist. It kind of reminds me of like when when weed went legal for medical marijuana, and you could just get online and have a conversation with a doctor and be approved and what have you. This kind of reminds me of that, but you should get documentation. I think if you have a legitimate cause to have an ESA, then you should definitely get documentation. And I would get documentation from your vet, a trainer, and a therapist, or a doctor that you're under care for your anxiety. But I also think that you should be well aware of the fact that they are not protected in the same way as a service or guide dog is protected under the ADA. And I think that's really important for people to realize and recognize that fact. And the reason, like, I don't care if you have an ESA, like, I don't care. But the reason why it irritates me when people just are like, oh, I have anxiety and I have my dog and he's great, but I want to make him an ESA or a service dog, and I'm moving into an apartment and they don't allow pets. Can you write me a letter? And I'm like, no, I won't write you a letter. I would write you a letter if you were legitimate. Yeah, absolutely. But just because your pet makes you feel good and you have to move into a place that doesn't allow animals, well, sorry for your loss, but I'm not taking that on. It's not ethical for me to take that on. But you should definitely go for training to get your pet where they need to be. If your dog is a mess, like, and they're just stressed out, like, yeah, train them. Don't make it bad for people like me and other people like me that are just like, like my friend Barb, she's going to be on next week. She has a service dog from Canine Companions for Independence. And, she just recently went through crap going into a restaurant because somebody had a supposed ESA and their dog was a mess and just like made it a bad name for anybody who has a dog, a service animal. It's just, you can't be careless like that. So train your animals, people. Let's get them to where they're very well behaved and that you can proudly say, this is my service dog, and proudly say, no, this is my emotional support dog, or proudly say, this is my guide dog. You know, don't don't shortcut shit. It's really ridiculous because it really hurts us. It's not hurting you. You're just being lazy. And that's just not cool. So for your ESA, this is an organization that just does the different letters for you. So, and they'll give you guidelines. But I want you to go to the ADA's site and share that with you also, so that you guys get a good idea of what the ADA is talking about. So the ADA is the one who really sets the tone and the laws. A business can refuse you or remove you if your dog is not housebroken or out of control, and you can't get that dog under control. So there's that. And also, it talks about what they aren't allowed to do as far as what a person is allowed to do or not do. Can they ask you if the dog is there for your because you have a disability? You can say yes. They can't ask you what your disability is. They can ask you, does the animal do work or task that that helps you? Have they been trained to do that? Yes, but they can't ask you to have your animal perform it because that's just bullshit. It's such an invasion of privacy. Like, people don't realize when you have a disability and you have a service animal, or you're even a full-time wheelchair user, or you have a cane, or you use a walker, whatever. It's like, people need to think about the questions that they ask. We're people too. We have feelings too. So don't be rude, okay? And also, there was a spot in here where they were saying that they don't have to wear a vest. Here it is. They don't have to be certified or required to go through a professional training program. I don't know how you're going to train your dog. So you should have a professional train your dog, whether it's like a program like a Canine Companions for Independence. That's a different story. Those organizations, you have to go on waiting list and apply, and etc. But if you find a dog that offers you certain behaviors that will help you with whatever your disability is, then you can hire a trainer to help you train that dog to be a service dog for you. Requiring them to wear a vest or any other ID that indicates they're a service dog, they don't have to, but visually, because people are so judgy, I really think that they need to have some kind of identifying apparatus on them. I like the vest. I also like that you can put on there don't pet, service dog, etc. And a service animal is not an ESA comfort dog. So there is that. And then was there, oh, I wanted to also just go over here into Florida law. Let's get this up here. Let's see, here we go. Yeah. So in Florida, under Florida law, people with disabilities who have service dogs or other assistance animals are entitled to full and equal access to housing. You can't be refused. You can't be required to pay extra, like a pet deposit on your service animal. But obviously, if they destroy your place, which I hope they don't, because that means you don't have a well-trained animal, then you're responsible for that, and that's coming out of your security. There are some housing laws for people with ESAs, which is really good that they have this on the books. That they're need to make reasonable accommodations for people who have emotional support animals. But you can be denied. Just because you have an ESA doesn't mean that they have to let you in. And again, it also states like your ESA shouldn't pose a threat to the safety or health of others. I think these are obvious things, but unfortunately, people, we need to be told that shit. So next week, like I said, I'm having my dear friend Barb on. She has a service dog. I think Bogo is maybe her third, maybe her fourth service dog. I can't remember, but it was just perfect, like just kismet. I got up Monday morning, and I usually start after I feed the dogs and Tammy goes to work, and I've got my own little Zen place. I'll get on and I'll check out what's on YouTube, and lo and behold, Dr. Kirk was on there about emotional support animals. And then last night I talked to Barb, and I was like, hey, you want to come on the show next week? So it's going to be a two-parter, but I really appreciate you guys listening. I just want you to know that how much I really enjoy doing this, and I love you guys. And I want you to please like, share, and subscribe my channel. Let's get this information out to everybody. Let's educate the world, everybody. Come on, let's do it together. All right, you can follow me on Facebook, on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast, Spotify and Apple. I'm there, the Doggone Positive Way. Or you can find me at Maria Ryan or Doggone Positive Training. Anyway, I love you guys. See you next week. Bye.